Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is the 1926 Cleveland Elites Negro National League baseball season. This was the third Negro League team that Cleveland had after the Cleveland Tate Stars and the Cleveland Browns. There was no team in 1925. So this was a new team. The Cleveland Elites played in the Negro National League, and they were playing home games in Cleveland at Hooper Field at East 55th, Woodland, and Central Avenue. And they had a tough year. They finished in 8th place with a record of 5-32, winning percentage of 135, 51 games out of first. The first place team was the Kansas City Monarchs, who were 56-19, winning percentage of 747, really something. The second place team, the Chicago American Giants, were 57-23. Third place, the St. Louis Stars, 49-29. Fourth place, the Detroit Stars, 46-30. Fifth place, the Indianapolis ABCs, 43-43. Sixth place, the Cuban Stars West, 16-47. Seventh place, the Dayton Marcos, 7-32. And in eighth and last place, the Cleveland Elites were 5-32. They are also known as the Cleveland Elite Giants. Now, they did not, play well. They had a very poor record, and by the end of June, only 5 players were left from the opening day roster. The decision was made to completely dismantle and rebuild the club in the middle of the season. Now, in 1926, league president and founder Rube Foster was hospitalized. He had a tragic accident. He was exposed to gas in a hotel room and almost killed him. Anyway, he developed mental illness and was hospitalized, and this was a horrible crisis for the whole league because he was such a strong personality, and there was a lack of central authority to force players and teams to play by the rules. So there were real problems because of that. There was no real league leadership. In a September game against the Detroit Stars, the Cleveland Elites scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 9th to win the game 9-7. Cleveland, despite their poor record in league games, had a very strong record against local semi-pro teams in Cleveland. And then the Cleveland Elites folded after the season. It was just 1 year. The owner of the Elites was Sam Shepard. Before the season, Shepard traveled to Texas, Arkansas, and Memphis, Tennessee to recruit and sign players. And on that trip, he signed 6 fellows who played for the Cleveland Elites. Now, for the first half of the season, the manager was Candy Jim Taylor, who played some third base and was, as I said, a player manager. He had been with the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1922 and again back in Cleveland with the Elites in 26. And he continued in the Negro, this was his last year in Cleveland. He continued in the Negro Leagues as a player and manager until his death in 1948. And in 1926, he had a strong year. He had 377, 26 and 69 at-bats. He scored 3 runs, 2 doubles, 8 RBIs, and 8 walks. He also did a little pitching. He had no decisions in 4 innings pitched and had 3 strikeouts. Candy Jim Taylor. Now, for the second half of the season, Frank Duncan, who was often called Pete Duncan, was the player manager. He was a catcher and an outfielder, and he batted .259 for the Cleveland Elites with 14 hits and 54 at-bats. He scored 7 runs, had 8 doubles, a home run, 3 RBIs, a stolen base in 6 walks. Pete Duncan played for the Philadelphia Giants, Leland Giants, Chicago American Giants, the Detroit Stars, Chicago Giants, Toledo Tigers, Milwaukee Bears, Cleveland Elites, the Cleveland Hornets, and the Cleveland Tigers between 1909 and 1928. He was a good bunter and a fast base runner and very popular with the fans, a very reliable outfielder, and he had all-around ability with a great arm, was an outstanding leadoff man. He hit .345 in Cuba during the winter of 1915 to 1916, and .382 with the Royal Ponciana team in the Florida Hotel League in West Palm Beach, Florida, in the winter of 1917 and 1918. He's also the manager of the Cleveland Hornets in 1927 and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. For his career, he hit .291 with 147 hits, 34 doubles, 5 triples, 3 home runs, 55 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, and 551 at-bats. Those are very incomplete Negro League statistics, which is a frustrating thing when you're trying to study these players. He became manager of the elites halfway through the season. In the Gazette newspaper in Cleveland, a black newspaper, it was written, Duncan took control of the team, quote, that had not been able to define the word victory, pulled it out of its lethargic state, and made it one of the most feared diamond outfits in the vicinity. Pete Duncan with the Kansas City Monarchs, and when he was playing for them, at one year they were in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and the children were helping the players carry their equipment. And the newspaper wrote, quote, Frank Duncan resembles a Pied Piper, since it requires a small battalion to carry his vast array of catching equipment. In the 1942 Negro World Series, Frank Duncan was the Kansas City Monarchs manager. In Game 2 in the 7th inning, his pitcher Satchel Paige decided with one man on to intentionally walk 2 players and load the bases and face the tremendous Josh Gibson. There was a conference on the mound, and Buck O'Neill, the first baseman, said, "Oh, man, you got to be crazy." And Duncan responded, quote, "Listen, Buck, you know all these people we got in this ballpark? They came to see Satchel and Josh. So whatever he wants to do, let him do it." And there were 2 outs, and Satchel Paige proceeded to strike out Josh Gibson in an incredible moment in Negro League baseball history. Most of his career play, he was manager of the Kansas City Monarchs. He was an outstanding catcher, and he was also the Kansas City Monarchs. And when Jackie Robinson played for them, and then left to sign with the Montreal Royals, who were a minor league team for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and then of course played for Brooklyn and integrated Major League Baseball. Frank Duncan. Now the starting lineup, Robert Bonner was the catcher. Bonner batted .216 with 30 hits and 139 at-bats. He scored 12 runs, had 6 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 12 walks, and Bonner was with the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1922, the Cleveland Browns in 1924, and back in Cleveland with the Elites in 1926. Robert Bonner. Charles Zamfier was the first baseman, although in his career he was mostly a second baseman. Zamfier batted .213 with 17 hits and 80 at-bats. He scored 21 runs, had a double, a triple, a home run, 5 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, and 12 walks. During his career, he played second base, third base, shortstop, first base, right field, left field, pitcher, and umpire. He played for the Cleveland Elites, the Cleveland Hornets, the Birmingham Black Barons, the Cuban Stars West, the St. Louis Stars, the Cleveland Tigers, Detroit Stars, Memphis Red Sox, and Cleveland Cubs between 1926 and 1931. They called him Zomp. He was born in 1905 and died in 1973 in St. Louis, Missouri at age 68. Very versatile player. It was alleged that he hit .480 one year, which has not been confirmed. He organized the St. Louis Umpires Association in 1940 and was inducted into the Greater St. Louis Amateur Baseball Hall of Fame. As a pitcher, in 1926, he had no decisions, pitched 2 innings, and allowed 3 runs. In his career, he had 148 hits, 16 doubles, 3 triples, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, 13 stolen bases, and 606 at-bats. Charles Zamfier. Bill Owens was the second baseman. Owens batted .333 with 35 hits and 105 at-bats. He scored 9 runs, had 6 doubles, 2 triples, 3 stolen bases, and 5 walks. In his career, he was a shortstop, second baseman, third baseman, and pitcher. Owens played for the Washington Potomacs, the Wilmington Potomacs, Chicago American Giants, Indianapolis ABCs, Dayton Marcos, Cleveland Elites, Cleveland Hornets, Harrisburg Giants, the Brooklyn Royal Giants, Birmingham Black Barons, Memphis Red Sox, and Detroit Stars between 1923 and 1933. He had a good glove, a strong arm. He lacked offensive punch. He was a native of Indianapolis, Indiana, In 1933, he was criticized by his manager that year, Candy Jim Taylor, in Indianapolis in front of his hometown fans, and he quit the team and retired. He got fed up. As an older man, he was the last living player in the Eastern Colored League at one time. He was born in 1901 in Hawesville, Indiana, and died in 1999 in Indianapolis, Indiana, at age 99. For his career, he had 322 hits, 36 doubles, 13 triples, 14 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, and 1,328 at-bats. Bill Owens. John Hamilton was the third baseman. Hamilton batted .314 with 33 hits and 105 at-bats. He scored 12 runs, had 8 doubles, a triple, a home run, 3 RBIs, a stolen base, and a walk. During his career, Hamilton was a second baseman, shortstop, and third baseman for the Washington Potomacs, Wilmington Potomacs, Indianapolis ABCs, Cleveland Elites, Birmingham Black Barons, and Memphis Red Sox between 1924 and 1927. He was the best shortstop. One time he was the best shortstop in Texas as a young man. He was born in Dallas, Texas. During his career, he had 262 hits with 113 runs scored, 35 doubles, 4 triples, 8 home runs, 52 RBIs, 27 stolen bases in 1,008 at-bats. John Hamilton. Bobby Robinson was the shortstop. He also played some third base. He batted .180 with 34 hits and 189 at-bats. He scored 16 runs with 5 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, and 16 walks. Robinson played for the Indianapolis ABCs, the Cleveland Elites, Chicago American Giants, the Birmingham Black Barons, Memphis Red Sox, Detroit Stars, Baltimore Black Sox, Cleveland Stars, the Cleveland Giants, and the Cleveland Red Sox, and St. Louis Stars between 1925 and 1941. He was 6 foot flat and 170 pounds, had a very good glove. At third base, they called him the human vacuum cleaner, which also, years later, they called, Brooks Robinson was called that. He grew up in Mobile, Alabama, was a mediocre hitter with fair power. After he retired, he became a brick mason for 30 years and settled in Chicago. He was born in 1903 in Whistler, Alabama. For his career, he had 460 hits, scored 225 runs, 57 doubles, 21 triples, 9 home runs, 46 RBIs, 40 stolen bases, in 1,908 at-bats. Bobby Robinson. Jack Summers was in left field. Summers batted .289 with 28 hits and 97 at-bats. He scored 6 runs, had 4 doubles, a triple, a home run, 2 RBIs, a stolen base, and 4 walks. Summers played for the Cleveland Browns in 1924, the Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. Jack Summers. Ernest Duff was the center fielder. He also was a catcher. He batted .287 with 31 hits and 108 at-bats, scored 10 runs, had 2 doubles, 2 triples, an RBI, 5 stolen bases, and 5 walks. During his career, he played right field, left field, center field, catcher, second base, and first base. He played for the Indianapolis ABCs, Cleveland Elites, Cleveland Hornets, Cleveland Tigers, and Cuban Stars between 1925 and 1932. For his career, he batted .307 with 172 hits, 25 doubles, 8 triples, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 24 stolen bases, in 561 at-bats. Ernest Duff. Harry Jeffries was the right fielder. Jeffries batted .288 with 78 hits and 271 at-bats, 13 doubles, 2 triples, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, 10 stolen bases, and 36 walks. And Jeffries played for the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1923, the Cleveland Browns in 1924, the Cleveland Elites in 1926, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. Harry Jeffries. Now, the bench players included Willie Miles, who played outfield, first base, and third base. He batted .195 with 16 hits and 82 at-bats. Scored 10 runs, had a double, 4 RBIs, 12 walks. Miles played for the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1923, the Cleveland Browns in 1924, the Cleveland Elites in 1926, and the Cleveland Hornets in 1927. Willie Miles. Roy Tyler was an outfielder. He batted .224 with 17 hits and 76 at-bats. Scored 7 runs, had 2 doubles, 4 triples, an RBI, 3 stolen bases, and 2 walks. Tyler played for the Chicago American Giants, the Cleveland Elites, and the Cleveland Hornets between 1925 and 1927, and he was born in 1899. Roy Tyler. Eddie Watts played some second base, shortstop, first base, and third base. He batted .259 with 15 hits and 58 at-bats, scored 3 runs, had 7 doubles, and 3 walks. Played for the St. Louis Stars, Cleveland Elites, and Cleveland Hornets between 1924 and 1927, and he batted 9th in the order in 1926 with Cleveland. For his career, he batted .213 with 74 hits, 16 doubles, 4 triples, 9 RBIs, and a stolen base in 347 at-bats. Eddie Watts. Edward Milton played a variety of positions: outfield, second base, first base, catcher, and pitcher. He batted .268 with 11 hits and 41 at-bats, scored 4 runs, had 2 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and 4 walks. As a pitcher, he had no decisions. In 4 innings pitched, 6 runs allowed, and a strikeout. Milton played for the Cleveland Elites, the Cleveland Hornets, and the Cleveland Tigers between 1926 and 1928. For his career, he batted .213 with 74 hits, 16 doubles, 4 triples, 9 RBIs, a stolen base, and 347 at-bats. Edward Milton. John Barnes played some catcher and first base. He batted .250 with 10 hits and 40 at-bats, scored a run, had a double, and 4 walks. Barnes played for the Cleveland Tate Stars, Cleveland in 1922 and 1923, the Cleveland Browns in 1924, Cleveland Elites in 1926, Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. John Barnes. Andy Harris played some third base, second base, and first base. He batted .333 with 12 hits and 36 at-bats. He scored 5 runs, had a double, an RBI, 2 stolen bases, and 2 walks. Harris played for the Hilldale, Pennsylvania Giants, the Pittsburgh Stars of Buffalo, the Pennsylvania Redcaps of New York, the Newark Stars, New York Lincoln Giants between 1917 and 1927. He was generally a light-hitting third baseman. He was born in 1896 in St. Helena, North Carolina, and died in 1957 in New York, New York, at age 61. Andy Harris. Charles Woolridge played some shortstop, first base, and outfield. He batted .189 with 7 hits and 37 at-bats. He scored 3 runs, had a double, a triple, a stolen base, and 2 walks. Woolridge played for the Cleveland Elites and Cleveland Tigers between 1926 and 1928. He was born in Houma, Louisiana. For his career, he batted .210 with 17 hits, a double, a triple, a stolen base, 9 walks in 81 at-bats. Charles Woolridge. Cotty Spearman played catcher, outfield, second base, third base, and shortstop. He batted .300 with 9 hits and 30 at-bats, scored 2 runs, had 2 RBIs, and 5 walks. Did a little pitching. He had no decisions in 2 1/3 innings pitched, 1 start, and 6 runs allowed. Spearman played for the Brooklyn Royal Giants, Cleveland Elites, the Homestead Grays, the New York Lincoln Giants, the Pennsylvania Redcaps of New York between 1919 and 1931. He was a good hitting catcher and generally hit 5th in the 5th spot for most of his career. Cotty Spearman. James Leonard, also known as Bobo Leonard, played outfield, first base, and pitcher. Batted .250 with 7 hits and 28 at-bats, scored 3 runs, had a home run, 2 RBIs, and 2 walks. Leonard played for the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1922 and 1923, the Cleveland Browns in 1924, Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. James Bobo Leonard. Robert Baldwin played some second base and shortstop. He batted .200 with 5 hits and 25 at-bats, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and a walk. Baldwin played for the Indianapolis ABCs, the Cleveland Elites, and the Detroit Stars between 1925 and 1926. Robert Baldwin. Ed Norman, also known as Alton Norman, played some shortstop. He batted .087 with 2 hits and 23 at-bats and scored 2 runs. He played for the New York Lincoln Giants and the Cleveland Elites between 1920 and 1926. Norman was an erratic outfielder, a showboater. He was wobbly on defense and weak at the plate, and born in 1901. Ed Alton Norman. Joe Ransom was a catcher, played a little bit, batted 105, had 2 hits and 19 at-bats, scored a run and had a triple, and his pro baseball career was just with the Cleveland Elites in 1926. Joe Ransom. Goldie Davis was a pitcher and outfielder. He batted .500 with 4 hits and 5 at-bats. In 8 at-bats, he scored a run, had a double, and 2 walks. Davis played for the Indianapolis ABCs and Cleveland Elites between 1924 and 1926. He had a light complexion, and for his career, batted .385 with 15 hits, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 RBIs, 6 walks, in 39 at-bats. Goldie Davis. Player by the name of Donthier, his first name is unknown. He batted .667 with 2 hits and 3 at-bats. A guy named Donthier. There was another player with no first name. Last name was first name is unknown. His last name was Dearborn. He had a batting average of 1,000. Batted once, had a hit, and scored a run. A guy named Dearborn. Another player whose first name is unknown. His last name was Hinkie. He also had a batting average of 1,000. 1 hit and 1 at-bat and also a walk. A guy named Hinkie. Sam Jackson was a catcher, outfielder, and first baseman. He batted once, did not have a hit. For his career, he played for the New York Lincoln Giants, the New York Lincoln Stars, Pennsylvania Giants, the Pennsylvania Redcaps of New York, the Newark Stars, and Cleveland Elites between 1919 and 1926. He was a reserve catcher and placed most of his career for New York City teams and was good on defense. Sam Jackson. Another player whose first name is unknown, his last name was Neff, N-E-H-F. He was a pinch hitter and had an average of 1,000. He batted once, had a hit, which was a single. And his Negro National League baseball career was just with the Cleveland Elites in 1926, a guy named Neff. Now, the pitching staff, John Johnson was the ace pitcher. Johnson batted .282 with 11 hits and 39 at-bats. He scored 2 runs, had 3 doubles, a home run, 3 RBIs, and 2 walks. His pitching record was 3-10, 13 starts, 100 2/3 innings pitched. He allowed 78 runs and had 53 strikeouts. Johnson played for the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1922, the Cleveland Browns in 1924, the Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. John Johnson. Grover Alexander was second in the rotation. They called him Buck. He batted .105 with 2 hits and 19 at-bats. His pitching record was 2-6 with 5 starts, a complete game, and 58 innings pitched, 38 runs allowed, and 28 strikeouts. Alexander played for the Chicago Giants, Detroit Stars, Indianapolis ABCs, and Cleveland Elites between 1923 and 1926. For his career, he batted .146 with 22 hits, 14 runs, 4 doubles, 2 triples, 5 RBIs, 6 walks, and 151 at-bats. And his pitching record was 16-37, 55 starts, 13 complete games, 425 innings pitched, and 151 strikeouts. Grover Buck Alexander. Squire Moore was another pitcher. Moore batted .077 with 1 hit and 13 at-bats. Pitching record was 0-3, 4 starts, a complete game, 40 1/3 innings pitched, 36 runs allowed, 13 strikeouts. He was his given name was Ralph Roy Moore, and they called him Squire. He played pitcher, outfielder, and first base. He was with the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1922, the Cleveland Elites in 1926, Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. He was born in 1897 in Mooresbury, Tennessee. For his career, he batted .237 with 71 hits, 24 runs scored, 5 triples, 5 home runs, 17 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, and 300 at-bats. And as a pitcher, he was 27-35 for his career, 68 starts, 39 complete games, 88 shutouts, 585 innings pitched, and 276 strikeouts. He was born in 1897 in Mooresbury, Tennessee. Squire Moore. Finis Branahan was another pitcher. They called him Slim Legs. He batted .167 with 2 hits and 12 at-bats and a run scored. His pitching record was 0-4 with 4 starts, a complete game, 29 2/3 innings pitched, 29 runs allowed, and 10 strikeouts. Branahan played for the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1922 and 1923, the Cleveland Elites in 1926, and the Cleveland Hornets in 1927. Finis Branahan. George Brannigan was another pitcher. He played some outfield, batted .286 with 2 hits and 7 at-bats, scored a run, had a home run, and 2 RBIs. His pitching record was 1-0 with 1 start and 26 innings pitched, 31 runs allowed, and 10 strikeouts. Brannigan played for the Cleveland Elites and Cleveland Hornets between 1926 and 1927, and his career average was .357 with 5 hits and 14 at-bats, a home run, and 2 RBIs. Career pitching record was 1-4 with 4 starts, a complete game, 42 innings pitched, and 18 strikeouts. George Brannigan. Willie Spearman was another pitcher. Spearman batted .310 with 26 hits and 84 at-bats. He scored 11 runs, had 3 doubles, a triple, a home run, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, and 3 walks. And he played for the Memphis Red Sox, Cleveland Elites, Cleveland Hornets, the Nashville Elite Giants, and St. Louis Stars between 1923 and 1929. His career record was 1-2 with 3 starts and 24 innings pitched, allowing 33 runs and 8 strikeouts. He was born in 1899 in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. For his career, he batted 64 times, he had 64 hits and 230 at-bats, scored 25 runs, had 8 doubles, 5 triples, 4 home runs, 23 RBIs. As a pitcher for his career, he was 20-25 with 49 starts, 26 complete games, 4 shutouts, 370 innings pitched, and 171 strikeouts. Willie Spearman. Eddie Walls was another pitcher. It's also known as Eddie Wall. He batted 5 times, did not have a hit. Pitching record was 0-3 with 3 starts, a complete game, 17 2/3 innings pitched, 31 runs allowed, and 7 strikeouts. Walls played for the St. Louis Stars, Cleveland Elites, and Cleveland Hornets between 1925 and 1927, and was considered a marginal player. Buddy Fields was another pitcher. He batted .333 with 2 hits and 6 at-bats, scored a run, and had a double. Pitching record was 0-2 with 1 start, 10 1/3 innings pitched, 21 runs allowed, and 6 strikeouts. Fields played for the Cleveland Browns in 1924, Cleveland Elites in 1926, Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Stars in 1932. Buddy Fields. Dimps Miller was another pitcher. They called him Dempsey. He was a pitcher, outfielder, and he managed in his career. He batted once and did not have a hit. His pitching record was 0-2 with 3 starts and 7 innings pitched, 12 runs allowed, and 2 strikeouts. Miller played for the Kansas City Monarchs, Cleveland Elites, Cleveland Hornets, Cleveland Tigers, Nashville Elite Giants, the Cleveland Cubs, Birmingham Black Barons, the Newark Browns, the Memphis Red Sox, Detroit Stars, and Detroit Giants in a long career between 1926 and 1945. In 1926, he missed the postseason championship series because he was shot in his pitching arm by his wife. Very terrible. He was born in 1897 in Omaha, Nebraska. Dimps Miller. And finally, Howard Black was another pitcher. Black batted once, did not have a hit. He had no decisions as a pitcher, 3 1/3 innings pitched, and 3 runs allowed. And his Negro League baseball career was just with the Cleveland Elites in 1926. Now, for the 1926 season in the Negro National League, or the Negro League Baseball, the best hitter was Martin DeHigo of the Cuban Stars East. And the top pitcher was Rats Henderson, who pitched for the Atlantic City Bacharach Giants. Now, after the season, in the postseason, there was a playoff between the top 2 teams in the Negro National League, and the second place Chicago American Giants defeated the Kansas City Monarchs for the opportunity to play in the Negro World Series, and they faced the Eastern Colored League champions, the Bacharach Giants of Chicago. And the Chicago American Giants won the 1926 Negro League World Series 5-4. So that's the story of the 1926 Cleveland Elites, who had a tough year, but it was nice that we had a Negro League team in 1926. God bless the fellows who played for the Cleveland Elites in 1926 and everyone else associated with the team, including the fans, especially the Civil War veterans, Spanish-American War veterans, and First World War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Severance Hall stalwarts, Euclid Avenue electricity, First Energy Stadium friends, Progressive Field pals, Quicken Loans arena enthusiasts, Cleveland Museum of Art enthusiasts, Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Monsters, and Gladiators rule, Cleveland, City of Champions. Cleveland is the best location in the nation on the north coast of America. New York is the Big Apple. Cleveland is a plum. Before you know it, it'll be opening day 2019. Go Tribe. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.